Hi, everyone. We are here. This is an impromptu live session with my friend Tina Butt. This session was prompted because Tina posted a really interesting question in her Facebook group last night, and I told her we should definitely discuss this live so everyone can have some input and kind of hear some of the ideas around her question. So, with that, I think we should just start off, Tina, by you posing the question, what we're talking about, and also why we're talking about it. Where did that question come from?
So I had asked a question. I was reading one of my books, and in the book, there was a comment that was made that if you love yourself first, then you'll be able to have healthy relationships. And the reason why that interested me so much was there's times that I question my relationships, mostly like personal relationships with friends. And so I reached out to the community and I asked, do you guys agree with this? Because I feel that I have a very healthy relationship with myself. I do love myself and appreciate myself, yet I am somebody that is very closed off to multiple relationships. So that's why I posed the question.
Yeah, no, it was a really good question. It really brought me back, and I had to kind of think about it like, And I agree. I think when you love yourself, love starts there, right? So
Mhm.
when you love yourself, it's really important because then you know what relationships to engage in, what
Mhm.
relationships not to engage in, or what relationships you kind of need to cut off,
Yep.
so to speak. So I definitely agree with that, that when you love yourself, it does kind of translate into the relationships you kind of keep.
Mhm.
You said something very interesting just now. You said you close yourself off to relationships.
I do.
What does that mean?
I guess like maybe prioritizing. I think I have a hard time prioritizing. Um, I am busy, so I do work full time. I have my own business and I have my family. So then I sometimes will kind of put other relationships off a little bit. I think it's like a trusting thing, trusting people, allowing them to come inside of my space, my
Mhm.
personal space. Um, so that's just something I've actually been thinking of more so in the last year.
Yeah, no, that's
Mhm.
important. It sounds like you're creating boundaries
Mhm.
around yourself, trying to protect yourself from certain people or
Mhm.
relationships, which
Mhm.
is really important. Do you tell the people that you're doing this, or do you just gradually? You just gradually things just change.
You know what? I Good question. I'm not sure. I think I'm very forward and upfront with people. People that know me, they know that I'm very selective, I guess. And so if you're in my group, in my personal space,
Right,
I mean, that's a good thing. That means that I trust you and
right,
we
right.
probably have something in common. But if something happens, am I somebody that will talk to you about it? Not always. I
Hmm.
very much shy away from confrontation. So
Yeah.
to me, if it's going to start an issue, I kind of back down and back away.
Yes. See, for me, I have to confront it and say this
Mhm.
is what's happening, and then kind of
Mhm.
back away. So everyone's kind of in the loop.
Yeah.
Because I have a very limited number, I would say, of people
Mhm.
who are really close to me.
Mhm.
So they kind of know me. Then you have like another tier, right, of these people. Then
Yep.
you have these people and these people.
Yep.
So depending where they fall in that tier, definitely. But if anything's ever bothering me or I don't feel right about it or something needs to
Mhm.
change, definitely being upfront is the
Mhm.
way. I go. But of course, you're always concerned about hurting people's feelings, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though sometimes you may be sacrificing your own, but
Mm-hmm.
you got to let them know, definitely. Well,
Mm-hmm.
let's take it back, Tina, to this whole loving yourself. What does
Mm-hmm.
that even mean? Like loving yourself? Well, how do you define that?
If you love yourself, you're respectful to yourself. So, which means you won't allow outside things and people to interfere with that. So, for me, the idea that I am kind of picky about who I allow in my personal space, that is me showing that I do appreciate myself. I appreciate who I am and as a person. So
Right.
loving myself also is how I treat my body.
Mhm.
So what I choose to do with my body, and that is through nutrition,
Mhm.
activity. Again, a thing that I've learned in the last couple of years was stress in the body. So
Mhm.
I really, really come to grips with if I say that I love myself, I had to stop and set some boundaries and
Absolutely.
yeah, and take care of my body as a whole from head to toe. So to me, that's what loving myself is. What about you?
Yeah. So when I think of loving myself, I think of wellness. And I think you and I have had conversations about wellness,
Mhm,
health, multidimensional. I
mhm.
think it's really taking time out for yourself and really figuring out where you are. And I know I say this all the time, time and space,
Right.
but it's important, right? To
Yeah.
really just assess what's going on
Mhm,
with you. Like, what dimension? Is it physical,
mhm,
emotional, occupational, financial? Like, where are you lacking? Where do you kind of need
mhm,
a little more? So I think loving myself is really trying to just be in tune. And I think
mhm,
it's not always in tune, right? There's always a
mhm,
little more here, a little more there, where you're a little deficient, here and there. But I think loving myself is giving myself the time and space to really assess where I
mhm,
am, what I need, and then taking the steps to do that. Now, that sounds very easy, but it's not. Um,
mhm.
and that whole physical wellness, that whole dimension,
Mhm,
the physical activity and eating healthy, it's not consistent, right? So
mhm,
then we go into mindset. That's why you and I are in the work of coaching, right? So
mhm,
it's like having that accountability to really just kind of align.
mhm.
And I also think about loving myself, playing on my strengths. So what are my strengths,
Yes.
right? And kind of playing on those, and the weaknesses. You can kind of look at them. Can I fix those, or do I just need to like put them away?
Yeah, they
So,
change, right? Like sometimes those change. So
yeah,
what you might feel strong in today, you might not next month, and that's why
right.
it's like an ever changing.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
But I also think, in all seriousness, the weaknesses, it's important to know what they are, because then you can,
Mhm.
bring people in to compliment you,
Yep.
right? So if I'm deficient here, I can say, "Hey, Tina, I really need this, and can you
Mhm.
help me there?" And then maybe next month, same thing, right? You're like, "Wendy, I need this. Can you
Mhm.
help me there?" So I think it's important to be aware of your strengths and your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think in terms of wellness, Tina, let me know your thoughts about this. It kind of goes into relationships,
Mhm.
right? That whole social dimension
Mhm.
of wellness. Like, how do you interact with the world and the people
Mhm.
and your community? Um,
Yep.
I think it kind of goes into there. What do you think?
For sure. So I've actually read studies on that, on relationships and overall health and wellness. And when someone's striving for overall wellness,
Hmm.
they if they lack certain relationships, so outside relationships, there's been research that shows that they have a higher risk for developing depression and
Hmm.
anxiety, and also with lack of healthy relationships, your overall health can decline and you're at higher risk of developing obesity, which can lead to heart disease
Yeah.
and diabetes. So, yes, I think having healthy relationships is so very important. That being said, so for me, if I don't have a healthy relationship, I think that's why I strive. Sometimes it's easier to not have many
Yeah.
relationships, because then it decreases the stress of them,
Yeah.
I guess you could say. But the people that I do allow and I involve in my life, they are very important. And, it's almost like a team,
Hmm.
um, a relationship, but a team. And to me, that sets me up for overall wellness, which is my goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think when you have unhealthy relationships, while you were
Mhm.
talking, I was thinking that that whole stress response, right,
Mhm.
happens. If it's unhealthy, it can be internal stress, right,
Mhm.
with your thoughts and then your mindset and everything's off. And let me know your thoughts about this. But I really believe when one of your dimensions are off, it kind of feeds into the other dimensions. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yes. So I think we just talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I actually, and we both coach on this. So
Yep.
I, for sure. So, the first thing that I do with someone is I have them review all of their dimensions in their life. And if I
Mhm.
miss one, but spiritual, your overall health and wellness, your finances, your relationships,
Mhm.
your career or profession, and your what's the
Emotional,
word?
mental,
Emotional. Yep.
environmental.
Yep. So if one of those are off,
Mhm.
meaning if when we score these for people, if you were to score each one of those areas 0 to 10, with 10 being great,
Yeah.
if one dimension is off, it can actually offset the other five.
Mhm. Yeah.
So if you think about it, like people that have financial struggles, I was actually writing a little thing on this morning. If people have financial struggles, that's going to cause stress. So
Yeah.
that stress is going to interfere with your job, with
Yep.
your relationships, with your overall health,
Yeah.
with your thought process, your spirituality. So one dimension can throw your whole system off. So
Yeah.
it's always important to put yourself in check and review your full life, all of those dimensions regularly. I have people do that at least once a month.
Yeah, no, that's
Mhm.
important. And while you're talking, that's exactly why I got into the work
Yeah,
of cancer caregivers,
awesome.
because outside of your loved one being diagnosed with cancer,
Mhm.
we have stressors, right, in some dimension of
Mhm.
our life. And then you put a cancer diagnosis on top of that,
Mhm.
it's just, it's magnified. So that's one of the motivations that really motivated me to kind of get into the work to really help cancer caregivers through that process, really identifying where
Mhm.
those dimensions are impacted by their loved one
Mhm.
being diagnosed. But it's real. It's
Mhm.
definitely real. So I have a question. Have you ever found anyone who's in sync with all their dimensions? That where all their dimensions are aligned?
No, but I always say if someone scores all 6 of those areas
Yeah.
above an 8, I think they're not being truthful with themselves.
Mhm.
And when I start coaching those particular people, that's when they actually do find that maybe some areas are lacking. I
Yeah.
think we try to talk ourselves into believing that we are achieving all areas at all times, and there's no way. Things change every day. There's something that happens in life. There's a new stressor. There's something that occurs. It's going to throw one of those dimensions off.
Yeah.
So then it's up to us to hold ourselves accountable and to recognize that, and then be able to work on that one area to bring it up and then prevent the other areas from becoming affected. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with you. And while you were talking, I was, thinking about community. So like
Mm-hmm.
having a community or a coach or someone, a
Mm-hmm.
tribe, right? To kind of
Mm-hmm.
just help you become in sync, not a
Mm-hmm.
10 all around, but maybe if you're a 6, maybe an 8,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe a 9, maybe
Right.
spend today in this area. You know what I mean?
Right.
But no, I totally agree with you. And just in all transparency for everyone watching this, Tina and I are both nurse practitioners, so we are both givers, and we have those relationships too with our colleagues and patients and families. How do you deal with that, Tina? Just having those relationships at work, like your occupational relationships.
I am very good. That took years. I've been doing this for 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
nursing for over 14 years as an NP, but I have really done a very good job with that. I try very hard.
Yeah.
This year with COVID, it's been difficult for me, but I try very hard to separate work from personal life. I learned early on in my career that when I would have a stressful day and bring it home to my husband, he didn't necessarily want to deal with my stress of the day, and he is not interested in hearing about some things. And so in order to protect my home relationships, I had to learn to separate very quick. I think that at work, I guess I am someone at work that I do share some personal things. Like I tend to talk about my daughter and show people some pictures of my daughter. That to me helps build a little bit of a relationship with them at work. So we work together better, I think, when you're kind of humanized and not just the healthcare professional. I think
Right.
people
Right.
appreciate that. Do you notice the same thing?
Yeah, so for me, being in oncology, it's really hard because all the patients, all the caregivers, you love on them and they're with you
Mhm.
for so long. And sometimes they're coming back very frequently,
Yeah.
and you get to know them, you get to know their family, hear their
Mhm.
stories. So that's really hard for me,
Mhm.
to separate the two. And I do bring it home and not bring home stressors, but just they're with me,
Mhm.
just naturally. In terms of coworkers, I do share.
Mhm.
Everyone knows that I'm married and I have children
Yes.
and all those things. But yeah, very very kind of open. In the midst of COVID, though, things have just been crazy. So coworkers have not been really no time to share
Mhm.
because people are
Yeah.
just kind of going. But
Yeah.
I think just in my patients and caregivers,
Mhm.
I'm there. I'm in all in.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I do need to give my time and space and take care of myself mentally,
Yeah.
right? And know when I need that space and have some
Mhm.
strategies in place to kind of remove myself
Yeah.
and take care of myself so I can continue to serve.
Which is so important. And I mean, what was it, 2 weeks ago? I had to reach out to some people and let people know that I need to prioritize right now. I'm having a little bit of a hard time.
Yeah.
And so I had to ask for forgiveness that I need to only do the things right now that were very important because I wasn't sure what was, happening in my workspace because
Yeah.
of COVID and changes. So that was me setting boundaries and me looking out for myself. So I am with you on that we have to have those healthy boundaries set in order to protect ourselves.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I think that's, I applaud you for reaching out and saying you can't do X, Y, or Z,
Mhm.
but without an apology because it's what
Right.
you
Yeah.
do, you
Mhm.
So I want to kind of hone in on that a little bit. So reaching out saying I can't do anymore. Was there any time around that where you reached out for help to say I need help in getting through or
Hmm. I'm not good at that. But that being said, I didn't feel that I needed it. I had like this, I have to say, there was a time this summer that I did have to reach out and ask for help, and that was from my husband. I needed him to kind of guide me a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, that's when COVID kind of started around with us, and but this time it was more I was able to recognize it so much sooner than I did
Mhm.
earlier, and I was able to kind of jump on that and shut it down. And I did ask for my boss. I did. I approached
Mhm.
my boss and I let her know what was going on, and I asked for help, and we kind of finagled some stuff at work, and it was so much better. So yes, I did.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's taking care of yourself, right? Setting
Right.
boundaries and asking for what you need.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so for me, I have a hard time asking for help too, but in the midst of COVID, it kind of forces you to.
Mhm.
I'm working from home. My husband's working from home. We have a little baby,
Mhm.
so really, yeah, I need help. Like
Mhm.
I have X, Y, and Z to do. We definitely have to work as a team and
Yeah.
try to communicate and
Mhm.
make sure everyone's needs are met. But also at work too,
Mhm.
asking, maybe I can't take on all these projects right
Mhm.
now, right? So just making sure we're kind of in tune with that.
Yeah.
Asking for help is really, why is it so hard for us? Why is it so hard to ask for help?
Well, I have read some stuff on that. But I also think that um, it is hard for us to ask for help because we are in a role of giving and not taking.
Yeah.
And something I've learned, um, I would say in the last couple of years for sure, but something I've learned is a fault of us not asking for help is that's a turnoff to people.
Yeah.
And people feel that if they're not needed by us, then why do they have a relationship with us?
Mhm.
And that's something that I had to really, really kind of come to grips with, because I can tend to push people away, not on purpose, but that is one of the reasons why is if there's something going on in my life, I may not share that because I don't want to burden people with what's going on with me. So
Mhm.
and they think that I'm all rosy and life
Yeah.
isn't all rosy. So it's important to share and ask for help. It's important to share when you're going through struggles because someone else might be going through the same thing and can actually give you a little bit of a some pointers and some help. So um, I personally think that's why we don't. We're so used to
Mhm.
helping others, and we really healthcare workers in general just we tend to put ourselves on the back burner a lot.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Very true. Yeah, one thing like for the caregivers who I coach, I always
know.
tell them that whole grow model that we use
Mhm.
in corporate America. What's the goal of asking for help? What's the
Mhm.
reality? What are your options and what will you do? So I definitely try to implement that in my life.
Mhm.
And I think for me, it's not that I go and say, Tina, can you help me with this? It's kind of
Right.
like I have my outlets.
Yeah.
And I think, that my close circle, when I go to them and I speak, they
Mhm.
know that that is help, right? And
Mhm.
then they give me what I need, so to speak. So I
Mhm.
think help it can show up in a number of ways. And I was just thinking
Mhm.
about that, not going to someone saying, I need this from you, or I
Yeah.
need help with this. But it may just be you calling someone, reaching out. And I have done
Mhm.
that many times
Mhm.
in the midst of COVID, just reaching out where, you just kind of had it and you need to kind of release and gain some perspective on it. So
I
I've had,
think we have to have healthy relationships. That means someone has to recognize that and
yeah,
recognize that that is your form of, if you want to say, asking for help.
yeah,
So knowing that you have people in your circle that they know that about you is very important.
yeah,
That means you've made healthy choices for relationships.
yeah, yeah. And it goes back to what we were talking about, right?
Mhm.
Our topic on healthy relationships.
Mhm.
So no, this has been really awesome. You have any last tips or thoughts regarding this topic before we wrap up?
Hmm. I can't think of any right off the bat. I do I do encourage people don't do what I do. Um, I really encourage people to be open and be honest, both with yourself and the people that you allow in your circle. Um, and the biggest thing I think in relationships this. Listening. So sometimes you can pick up one small thing that someone might be going through, and you could be that one person that can make a change for them without even realizing it. So stopping and listening to the ones that you are engaging with.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think that's my tip is very similar. Check in with yourself, figure out what you need, and reach out. Many of us are part of communities, and we are virtually listening, but know when you need to actually reach out or accept help.
Right.
Because many times people are reaching their hands out, and we kind of like we're not, reaching back to them. But
no, I'm fine.
yes. I think it's very important to have that outlet, and for all of us. I mean, that advice is for me too, not just for the people who are watching this, but we all need that, and we all need reminders. None of us are perfect, right? But I think we can definitely heal and move forward together when we're together, and we're all on the same journey.
Yep, for sure.
Trying to maintain health and wellness.
Yep.
Yeah, but Tina, this was great. We should do this more often. I really enjoyed the impromptu
I agree.
And Cindy, thank you for watching. Cindy has a whole bunch of comments over there. And we'll respond to Cindy's comments. But thank you all for tuning in. We have a couple of other people tuning in. But let us know your thoughts on this, and we will see you later.
Well, Bye. Thank you so much.
Yes.